Hello and welcome to GoldsQUAD Online. GoldsQUAD is a relaxed and friendly group for anyone over 50 who is interested in creativity, learning new skills and trying new challenges in a supportive environment. Sessions are led by visiting artists and creative practitioners. In this session, Philippa is showing us how to embroider a thistle using tapestry wool, silk ribbon and stranded thread. Philippa is going to demonstrate satin stitch, trellis stitch, loop stitch, stem stitch and detached chain in order for you to create your thistle. You will need thick tapestry wool, stranded thread, silk ribbon 2mm thick in 2 colours, a needle, a small square piece of background fabric of your choice, and then a thistle template drawn on, just like the example here. For more information about GoldsQUAD, please visit www.derbyquad.co.uk and search GoldsQUAD. Enjoy the session.
Christmas, well, not Christmas, is it? But a thistle, yeah.
Yeah.
Using silk ribbon and tapestry wools. So in your pack, you have got a little piece that's got the template drawn on it. You've also got, now some of you have got, depending on how much I had of anything, some of you have got some thinner tapestry wool and some of you have got thicker tapestry wool, depending on which pack went where. So if you're using, if I've sent you the thinner one, or sorry, Emily sent you the thinner one, then you need to use 2 strands of this. If you've got a thicker one, more traditional tapestry wool, then you just need to use one of those. I got these from Wool Warehouse. I found that they have got a really good selection of the Appletons. So if you wanted to, this is called Crewel wool, and you can also buy tapestry wool, which is thicker. So I've got those, and you should have a little bit of stranded thread, hoping that's there, a little bit of silk ribbon. So this is 2mm and it comes from Crafty Ribbons. Just sound like it's a bit dodgy, but it isn't anyway. So there's that one. And also you should have some of the purpley bit to go on the top, and a needle. So that should be okay. So I'm just going to go over onto the little camera so that I can just show you what we're going to do to start with. So what I've done is, this is your little template. What I've done is I've just blown this up onto paper so that I can show you the first bit that we need to do. So you're going to thread up your needle with the wool, and what we're going to do is we're going to start off roughly in the middle, and we're going to come up on, this is the right side, so you're going to come up and you're going to do a line of stitching on there. So I'll just show you this first, and then we can get started. And rather than going back up to the top again, I'd like you to go to the side and come back up that way, so that you're not creating lots of threads at the back. The risk with that is if you have lots of threads at the back, A, you use up an awful lot of wool, but also it tends to pucker it. So it's better if you can do it this way, and then you'd come down again, yeah, and go across and up, okay? So we're going to do that. And what I'm looking for, or we're looking for, is this idea that they are next to each other so that you can't see the fabric underneath, okay? And then, not surprisingly, once you've done all of that side, you can go back and do the other side, so that we fill everything in across the whole of the piece. So I'll just demonstrate that as well. So if you want to start, that would be great. Doing that. Again, don't use threads that are too long, because you don't want them to knot. So no longer than the end of your nose and your forefinger, just to give you a rough guide. And it's a size 22 chenille needle that I'm using. So just to remind you, when you're using any of the needles, what you're trying to do is to create the right size of hole for your thread to go through. So if it's not going through, then change the size of the needle by going up or down depending on what you need. So I'm going to start off at the top here. So this is sort of like a satin stitch. Well, it is a satin stitch. So going straight down here. And then just come up to the side of it. It hasn't knotted at the back, and then go up to the top. Okay, and then just keep working away. Now you might have a very small little sight of the material. Don't worry too much if that's the case, because we're going to go back the other way as well. So just keep working through there. So once we've done the verticals,
Yeah.
so I've just finished one side now, so I'm going to go and finish the other side, and then they'll go horizontally. So can I just sort of say, when you've done all of the verticals, you then start to do the horizontals, and I'm just going to start up at the top here, and I'm just working over onto this semicircle shape, yeah, that you've got. So just do a little short one, yeah.
All right. Okay.
And then
I see. Yeah.
come back. So you're still working. So where I've gone down, I'm just going to come up on the semicircle next to, just trying to do that, there we go. And then go back, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Until you can make a long
Go straight
stretch across, okay?
So we're not weaving it?
No, we don't need to weave it, no, which is good. So what we're doing at the moment is we're creating sort of like a padding, you know, the bottom, I don't know what it's called of a thistle, but we're creating that kind of bulbous bit at the bottom.
And is the horizontal as we're not leaving any spacing or anything in between?
No,
it's just as we did the vertical.
It is, Hazel, yeah. So that you're just getting a nice padded feel to the whole thing.
Right.
Okay. So we started off in the middle, and what we're doing is we're going along and then back up that way, so that on the back you just have little running stitches. So if I just turn mine over, you see I've just got little running stitches going around. I haven't got a big loop of wool, just to save on the wool, but also it keeps it from bunching up as well. So we're doing vertical ones, and then once you've done the vertical ones, I finished off up here. So you then want to do some horizontal ones. Yeah, it'll be wider than that, but and then they just keep coming along until you can get all the way over, and then you go straight over. And then I went back in and filled those up, and then I came down, and I'm just going backwards and forwards across horizontally. Again, just making some padding and making sure that the threads all kind of match up, butt up to each other. Okay, so it's like that. Okay, so this little oval rugby ball shape,
Yeah.
you're putting all your flower colour in. So you're just working in that. Whilst I'd got my wool still threaded up, I was going to do the little stem. So I've got on this one here, I used a stem stitch, and then I've added little bits of that very pale green ribbon as little lazy daisy stitches to sort of put a little bit of detailing on it. So I'll just show you the stem stitch. We'll do the lazy daisy bit in a bit. So you've got your line actually on the fabric. So we're going to come along and do a little stitch. I'm working from right to left. Come in on there. So you want to keep your thread lower below the line, and then come along. And again, just keep pulling it just to keep it nice and flat. So I'm not going quite back to where the threads come out there, so I'm just going down and then stopping. So probably about 2 or 3 strands from the edge. So you just want to do that all the way down. This is a nice, obviously, stitch, given its name. If you don't want to do that, you could do back stitch. You could do chain stitch if you wanted as well. So there's all sorts of options, or you could do a split stitch. That would also give some texture. So that's the next little part. Right, so okay. So you've got in your pack some stranded green thread, cotton, yeah? And what I'm going to suggest you do is you split that down into 3 strands. I just want to remind you about the little technique. So you splay open the ends of your thread, and then you pull one out at a time so that it doesn't tangle, and put them back together. And the advantage with that is that you end up with a flatter piece of thread than if you tried to divide it and get it all tangled. So pull your 3 strands out and then put them back together again. And then can you see it's then sits a lot flatter, so you'll get better coverage. So you should always do that if you're doing any kind of cross-stitchy type things or embroidery.
So we're doing 3 strands together, Philippa?
Yes,
Or 2
please.
strands?
No, 3 would be great, Chris, because then that just makes it a little bit more bold. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw on the diagonals, or stitch the diagonals. So if I just show you on this enlarged piece here, so you're going to come down, and it's about 1/8 of an inch between each of the diagonals, okay? So still coming along like that, and then you can finish those off, yeah? And then you're going to do the other direction as well, okay? So just remember, this is a enlarged up, enlarged version of the, so that you end up with some crisscrosses. So I ended up on mine with 1, 2, 3, 5 going from right to left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, and 5 going right from left to right, okay? So they cross over to create a sort of a lattice, yeah? So that's your next job. And what you can do when you're stitching the diagonals on, you could, just lay it. So I've come up from the on the top right, and then just lay it in general direction that you want to go in, and then that will just mark how you want it to look. But there's nothing stopping you. I know a few of you have said about weaving now. I mean, if you wanted to weave it, you certainly could. There's no. This is just a bit faster. We are going to put a little anchoring stitch where each one of these intersects.
Oh, bugger.
Those of you that have got your diagonals in, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come up. Now, I used a little, I'm just going to come into there, a little lazy daisy sort of chain stitch. So I went just into the thickness of the wool, and I've done a little chain and pulled it through, and then anchor it through to the back, and then go to the next little intersection where the 2 diagonals cross. If you don't want to do that, you could just do a little stitch over the diagonals, yeah, and then that holds it in place. So you get a little bit more texture with the chain, and it just holds it in place if you just do it with the straight stitch. You decide where that feels right for you. The way I've done my little chains is I've started at the base of the diagonal, so that all of my rounded bit of the chain are sitting at the top. And I think that just finishes it off, it gives it that nice little bit of texture, but also it kind of slightly quilts it as well.
Philippa, how far are you going up with that? Are you starting in the crux of each diagonal?
Yes, I'm starting at the bottom underneath where the cross is.
Yes.
Yep.
And how far does the chain go up?
It just goes to the other side of where the cross is. So if I just hold it like that.
Oh, you're actually doing it on the... I can't see that. Sorry, it's a bit off centre.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry, that's better.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing
Oh, I see.
underneath
Right.
a little bit of the wall.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
just pull it through, make the chain, and then it becomes that lazy daisy stitch by just
Ah,
anchoring it then through
okay.
all the thicknesses to the back. And then I go to the next little intersection.
Thank you.
That's all right. And I'm not worried too much about, you know, making sure it all looks pristine. I'm just...
And that's in the same coloured stranded thread?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm with 3 strands again. So I've just, once I've finished doing my diagonals, I just carried on with what was in my needle.
Right.
And that was, that worked okay. What I'd like to do next is just to show you how to make the little fluffy ribbony bit on the top. So I've got the ribbon, which is the purpley one, and as I say, this was from Crafty Ribbons. You can buy it on the roll or you can buy it by the meter, and it's silk, which is really good for this type of exercise because it's very forgiving, and you can also put a knot in it, and it's not a difficult thing to work through. So what we have to do is we have to make some loops, and we need to make some loops then that get slightly knotted on the back. Okay, so I've got my edge at the top here. So if you imagine I'm going to start here on that top edge and come up there, and I'm going to work my way across and then down. So I'm going to come up here, and what you want to do is the actual loop needs to be about 1.5 centimeters, which in old money is 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to come down just to the side of where the ribbon came out, and you might want to put it round something, you know, is another thought with that. So I'm just going to pull it down. So if
How
in
many
effect,
how many centimetres?
1.5 it needs to be
1.5.
roughly, yeah. And then I'm going to trap that loop with my finger, turn over onto the back, and without pulling the loop, I'm going to just do a little, so I'm going to go over the top of my needle, and I'm just going to make like a little knot, and then I'm going to come back up again. Okay, and I'm just going to pull that now, I can hold it tightly, and pull my needle, if you like, through the knot. Okay, and then there's my first little loop on there. Okay, so I'm going to do the next one. And it doesn't matter too much if they're not quite the same height, because you can always give it a haircut once you've done them. And we're going to cut through the loop when we've finished. Okay, so I've come up, and I'm going to go just to the side, like 2 or 3 threads of the fabric, and I'm going to come back down again. Oops.
Down.
Okay, and I'm going to leave a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I just do pull that down. Okay, and remember, don't worry if it gets a bit twisted like this one has, because they're going to get cut and then they'll straighten themselves out. I'm then going to hold those down, the loops that I've done, turn my work over, and I'll just let that focus a minute. Okay, is everybody seeing that? Okay. Then, without pulling this, I'm going to put my needle above and wrap the ribbon round it, kind of a bit like you'd start to do a French knot. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Then I'm going to push my needle through, and my needle's going then through that bit of wrapped.
Ah, right.
So I've
Yeah.
made a little knot on the back to hold that in place. Then I'm going to go back up to the front again and make my next loop.
So when you come back through,
Yeah.
you've gone through, you put your needle through your knot, come through the other side. Where are you coming up on the front face of it?
I'm going over to the left. So I'm literally going along that top line that's drawn on the
Yeah, so when
fabric.
you get your needles coming through from the back to the front, you
Yeah.
come through to a section to the side of the stitch you just made. To the side
Exactly.
of the,
Yeah, that's it, Sue.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So just and it's like 2 or 3 threads from each other. Yeah,
Thank you.
of fabric, 2 or 3 threads of fabric. And like I say, it doesn't matter if the loops are different heights in a way. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, you've just got a limited amount of ribbon, but it's more that you can trim it afterwards because we're going to cut through. So don't worry. And then literally, you're just going to fill in with the loops this area. Now, after you've done that first side, you can. I'm just going to go back through the middle of my work. So I've got a little bit here. I'm just going to do another row, and then I'll come back up and finish this other side. There's no, order for it, but you won't need to have them too closely packed together, because it will cover. So I haven't gone through all of mine, but I just thought what I'd do then is I'd show you. So I've got some of my loops here, and literally when you get to the end, and it's easier to do this after you've completed all this, not at this stage when it's partially finished. You see, then you can just cut through.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And if you do that before you've done the whole area, I don't know if you can see on the one I've got, I put it into a little bag, and you see it started to fray a little bit on the ends.
Oh,
So what you don't want to do is it doesn't matter if it frays a little bit, but that's what you're
that's lovely.
after. Okay, so that's just carrying on. I think I've still got one little loop there that I haven't done. Yeah, there we go. So that gives you the top of your thistle, and then the other part is you've got some very pale ribbon, in your pack as well, and that's for just finishing off the stem. You see, I don't know if you can see it close.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So these are just little lazy daisy stitches, but you could, if you wanted to, just do a little straight stitch. It's entirely up to you, but I'll just show you the lazy daisy, and then that just kind of gives you a little bit of texture on the stem of the thistle. So again, tie a knot in it, and you just put them. They're not opposite each other, so they're staggered. Yeah. So if I just draw it on here, so you're sort of starting out here, and then down there. So it's that kind of arrangement.
Oh, right. Okay. Got it.
With it, yeah. So I'll just pull that through, and I've just caught a little bit of the wool when I do my stitch. So I'm going to just catch a bit of the wool, do my chain stitch. Oops. Wrap it around like that. Pull through. So then I've got the chain stitch there, and then you just anchor it on the other side of the loop, and there's your lazy daisy stitch there. And then I don't cut it off or anything, just come down to the other side so that you're doing it in the opposite, on the alternate side. Do your chain stitch, wrap it round, pull through. And what's quite nice with ribbon is, you can adjust it afterwards if you want to. So Oops, don't catch your flower. And there's no particular order to this, you know. If you wanted to have done your stem, you know, like that first, then you can. But I just thought I wanted to show you all the different techniques. So does that make sense? Can you see it all okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the actual finishing it off, it shouldn't take more than about, I think, half an hour now, just to get to that point where you've got it all cut and everything. And if you wanted to, you could give it a little blast of steam. What I found is that, especially with wool, you can just blast it with a bit of steam, and it just relaxes the fibres, so it just will lie more flat. It'll just ease everything together. And with this one, you could, if you wanted to, I suppose you could embroider thistle or something, on it. You could make it a bit of a botanical, I don't know what the official Latin name for it is or whatever. And I think this would be one of those projects, if you got a photograph of it, it would make a really sweet little card, wouldn't it? You could actually put pictures of the car of your work, so you keep all your effort, but you can replicate your designs and obviously sign it. That's really important as well. And I think that would just make a really nice little present. Getting hold of the ribbon is pretty straightforward because you can do it online. I'm not entirely sure if they sell silk ribbon anywhere in Derby at the moment.
I don't think they do.
No, I think we've lost that option, haven't we? But I really would suggest that you do silk ribbon because it is so much finer. You can feel it, can't you? And it does actually work really well through thicker fabric. Whereas the synthetic ribbons, even if you got a 2mm, there's a rigidity to it that doesn't have that nice quality. The other thing you could also do is you could buy plain white ribbon because it's silk, and you could dye it. So don't forget you could dye your own colours if you wanted to. I think it is slightly cheaper to buy undyed ribbons, and you can get them in different thicknesses. So they do them in, I think it's 2, might be 3, and then I think there's 5 and 6 or something like that. So depending on what type of flower you're trying to do. I think this little 2mm ribbon works really nicely for this type of flower, but there are lots more embroidery type things that you could use. I mean, we did a little project, didn't we, with the roses? I don't remember. Where we gathered those up. So this is out of the same kind of stable idea of where you put a running stitch through the middle of your ribbon and then gather it up and then couch it down, and that worked really nicely as a little sort of.
Is there a book that shows you how to do different flowers?
There's loads out there. I think DMC actually have a ribbon book, Melanie, with all the sort of different ones in there. There's several ribbon books. There's a lot online actually as well, so this, I wouldn't worry, necessarily about actually having a book. So that's ribbon with a bit of crewel work, and
Thank you for watching. Please visit www.derbyquad.co.uk for more information on GoldsQUAD or how to book a place. Please share your finished thistle with us by sending us a picture to creativewellbeing@derbyquad.co.uk.